Good evening, all. Again, nice to see you all and also to hear you all in the sixth series of webinar IRSC on Journey to Safety. And we have been doing this since 5 week ends, especially at 4 o'clock at this time. And it's also really great to see so many participants joining from the wide spectrum of organizations and the thing. So today what we'll do is we have an distinguished panelist with us. Mr. Ivy Rao to start with. I will just give a short introduction about our participants. Ivy Rao, I think whenever you hear the name of Maruti, I think Ivy Rao sir comes in the first. So he is one of the biggest contributor in terms of automotive industry in the last 3 decades. And he's a graduate from Osmania University, Hyderabad, and he completed MTech in Mechanical Engineering, IIT Kanpur in 1976. He has various activities done in the last 35 years. After a short stint of R&D Center, KG Khosla Compressors Limited, and joined Maruti in 1983. And spearheaded R&D activities, Maruti Suzuki Limited. He led R&D, senior manager, executive officer, and advisor for MSIL from 2012 to 2019. Presently, he is the visiting senior fellow in the Center of Sustainable Mobility Group of TERI, a renowned think tank based in New Delhi, and it's a part-time assignment for him. So he is an executive council member of SIAM. Who else is better than commenting on vehicle safety than the executive council member itself? And also, he has various expertise, specifically chairing many sessions like national, international regulations councils of SIAM. So with this, I would like to invite Mr. Ivy Rao sir to join this discussion. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Giri.
And just hold on, sir. So next I will introduce Rashmi ma'am and then Bindu, and then we will start with the panel.
Okay.
So next we have Ms. Rashmi Urdhwarshe madam, and she is a distinguished academic career, master in electronics and engineering, certified quality auditor, certified Six Sigma, black belt, ASQ, diploma corporate directorship, WCG, and is a chair of Transport Engineering Division of Council, TED EC, chair of AISC, Automotive Council Industry Standard Committee, and vice chair for Working Party for Pollution and GPRE and UN Regulations Geneva during the period of 2014 and 17. She also has close to three and a half decades of experience, and she has a lot of laurels. Her lifetime commitment and contribution towards automotive technology has been recognized by the Government of India, and she is recently awarded Nari Shakti Puraskar 2019 at the hands of Honorable President of India. Thank you very much for joining us, Rashmi ma'am, and we would look forward to you. So next we have Ms. Bindu Santa Phillip, the Senior Manager, General Manager for Automotive Driving and Autonomous Vehicles. Bindu has around 24 years of experience in engineering, design, and development. She is with Robert Bosch since 8 years and automated driving functions. And prior to this, she had an experience of around 5 years in Ashok Leyland as a senior design engineer and R&D for 3 years, and GE Medical System design engineer for large medical devices for around 8 years, and 8 years leading the design of teams in Honeywell Technological Solutions in automotive industry and industrial space. She has involved in multiple aspects of autonomous driving for initiating program from the scratch till making the prototype vehicle run on its own. So anything related to autonomous vehicle, automated driving, Bindu is the person for you all for the today's discussion. Thank you very much for joining, Bindu. Welcome for this particular session.
Thank you.
So with this, what I would like to do is we will start off our discussion in a short round. So what we do is we allocate roughly around 5 to 8 minutes for ourselves to really describe about what are the contributions we have been doing since long time on the automotive industry, specifically focusing on the vehicle technology. Just before we start, I would like to give you a brief background on what is the series is all about. So 2 months back, Deepanshu, me, Amar were discussing let's start something on kind of educating people on road safety, wherein we can just give some food for thoughts or record some videos and put it on the shelf so that everyone can read it, because we do not have any resources related to Indian road safety as of now. So instead of doing a monologue record, why can't we start a webinar series? Was the idea started. So that's how we started this webinar 6 weeks back, and it's been continuously going on. I think most of the people who are in this session is already hearing this for the 6th consecutive time. I wish this will go forward with eminent personality support like you. And the quick update on the last 5 rounds is the first session, we just gave an idea of what is road safety is all about, how many fatalities in India, how many people are fatal, what are the accidents, what are the different types, how to read a MORTH report, how to read the Motor Vehicle Amendment Act and things like that, which I gave, and it is also placed in the webinar series. And the second series where Piyush Tiwari joined us and gave an overview of a good Samaritan law. And the third series, we had Mr. Rajesh from Niti Aayog and also Mr. Geetam Tiwari ma'am from IIT Delhi, who joined and gave us an insight on various topics. On the fourth session, we have Mr. Abhay Damle, the former Joint Secretary of MORTH, who served the last 5 years in Ministry of Road Transport. And the fifth session, we had an international perspective from GRSP Director, Global Road Safety Partnership Director, Mr. Eva Molanar from UNECE Geneva, who joined us and joined. And this is the sixth session. I welcome you all for this session. Hope this also makes an history, and all the people can just type in their questions on the bottom right. With this, I would like to open the session with Mr. Ivy Rao to start with, the senior most in the panelists. So you can start your expertise and also your views on the vehicle safety perspective for India, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Giri Kumar. Good afternoon, friends. I am very happy to join this webinar organized by IRSC about future of automotive safety. I have been following the series of webinars at least for last 4 weeks, with eminent personalities expressing their views about this important subject of road safety. I compliment IRSC for this initiative during COVID lockdown. All three of us who are going to speak today, though coming from different sides of auto sector, will have a lot of overlap. To reduce the repetition, instead of talking about the details of regulations implemented, I thought it may be interesting to also understand how the motor vehicle rules evolved over years. I was surprised myself to know that the first enactment of Indian Motor Vehicle Motor Act was in 1914, which was subsequently replaced by Motor Vehicles Act 1939. This was all during British Raj. In 1960, a scheme of certifying new models for roadworthiness before granting the industrial license for production was introduced by Ministry of Heavy Industry those days. So when Maruti started in 83, I distinctly remember our offering all the 4 models to ARA for roadworthiness testing. The test book protocol had various tests to check the performance, but there were no norms to confirm or reject a vehicle. The basic checks were for acceleration, braking, and limited durability, and then verification of engine power, what was declared, without any clear norms. This certificate was essential for getting the new models registered. Fuel efficiency norms were prescribed in 83 for concessional custom duty for fuel efficient motor cars. And the fuel efficiency was measured at steady speed of 50 kilometers per, which was done actually on highways, because nobody had any test tracks those days. In early 80s, a need was felt to modify the 1939 Act in a holistic manner, taking into account the changes in road transport technology, pattern of passenger and freight movement, etc., leading to the Motor Vehicle Act 1988, including the technical requirements of construction and maintenance of the vehicle. Most of the requirements were mandated in 89, which had some requirements for braking, idle emission, and orientation of tailpipe. Ministries of road transport and heavy industry formed a committee those days to discuss implementation of other regulations. In mid-90s, it was jointly agreed by industry, the ministries concerned, and the test agencies that India would adopt EU regulations with a time lag. EU was selected as most of the manufacturers had their parent companies there or were exporting vehicles to Europe. Director ARI was the secretary for this committee. ARI has played a vital role in formulating Indian automotive standards based on corresponding European standards and work out a clear roadmap to mandate these standards with MOTH. We have come a long way, and finally, with implementation of crash and other safety standards last year and PS6 emission norms in April this year, our new vehicles are almost at par with what are there in Europe. Having seen the industry without any clear regulatory requirements in 80s, I personally feel this is an achievement for Indian auto industry to be almost at par with Europe in 20. In case of two-wheelers, many of our regulations are more stringent than other countries. Rightly so, because almost 75% of our automobile production is two-wheelers. India is one of the two largest two-wheeler manufacturing countries in the world. Though auto industry is considered as indicator of economy of the country, automobiles are partially responsible for contribution to air pollution and continuously increasing road accidents and the number of fatalities. Last year, the Motor Vehicle Act has been modified with lot of improvements and also increased the penalty for not following any of the traffic rules. Many of the busy roads in Delhi have been equipped with remote cameras for identifying the vehicles jumping signals at road crossings and not stopping as per guidelines, which would automatically issue the challan by WhatsApp through WhatsApp. Though these penalties are still not strictly being levied due to some administrative issues, I generally don't see much needed change in user behavior. There is no evaluation of the accident taking place every day to understand the reasons for accident. Only records we still have are from police complaints, which are basically made from fixing the responsibility for the accident. Though there is a Bangalore-based organization trying to analyze the root cause for the accidents, they cover very small part of the total accidents. If the accident analysis is done properly, it gives great input for the designers to develop safer vehicles. The vehicle users are still not very well aware of various features provided for driver assist for safe driving. And the bigger issue is also non-clarity about what to do, what to be done when. It does not suffice to equip the models with lot of features for driver assist. More important is to educate the users about these features and their usage. I feel it is pertinent also to discuss why road users or vehicle users should follow traffic rules. Let's look at two-wheeler users. As per recent survey, only 30% drivers use helmets and only 10% pillion drivers. Why should a two-wheeler user wear an helmet properly? Many of them still think that they are doing this to follow rules. This is evident from the way they wear the helmet without even fixing the buckle. They do not feel they are doing this for their safety. The day the users fully realize they have to wear correct helmet correctly for their safety, no policing would be required for this. Same is the case with wearing seatbelts in passenger vehicles. Based on some survey conducted last year, only 28% drivers wear seatbelts, males 32% and females 19%, and only 4% of rear seat occupants wear seatbelts. And this, in this also, many don't use when doing small trips to nearby locations. Implementing road safety in India needs a change in mindset of the users, moving from, and also the administrators, moving from reactive to proactive approaches. As has been discussed for last 10 years, the five pillars for road safety, the building road safety management capacity, improving the safety of road infrastructure and further developing safer vehicles, enhancing the behavior of road users, and improving post-crash response. These are all important, and we had been discussing this for long. I personally feel the behavioral change in road and the vehicle users is most important for safety on roads. If the user's mindset changes, everything else will fall in place. I would like to stop here and like to respond to the question from the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivy sir. I think you touched upon every aspect, starting from the emissions to the other end of safety. And also, I'm really glad that you also touched upon the topic of driver behavior and also on the usage of helmets and also the common topics which IRS is also struggling to enforce through various awareness campaign of wearing helmets, seat belts, and other things. So thank you very much. We'll get back to you in short while with your expertise knowledge. Now I'll just move on to Rashmi ma'am. So kindly just give us share a thought of your 3 decades of experience in a short, concise, maybe 5 to 8 minutes. Thank you. And it's tough. I know you'll do your best.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. I sincerely hope that you all are safe away from the roads. We all are confined to our homes or places which are forced situation on us. But I can see the impact on the road safety is much higher because the road accident data shows it. That's the lighter side of it. However, I would share with you all my journey. I was very much a part of what Mr. Ivy Rao said, a journey of 3.5 decades. We all started together. He was from the industry. We are from Automotive Research Association of India. And I have seen this, journey together with the industry participants. We at TERI look at the road safety as an integrated approach. How do we really define the safety? We look at whether the roads are safe. We also are concerned about whether the vehicles are safe. And then, of course, whether the occupants are safe. So all these put together is what contributes to the road safety. Each one of these aspects at my organization, we deal independently. All these factors, they have the close interactions. They are not independent factors. When they interact with each other, when the road interacts with the vehicles, when the vehicles interact with the occupants, the resultant is quite different. So we at ARS study all these aspects. If we look at the trend in regulations, Ms. Rao mentioned very nicely about what is the progress of regulations. We all know that the safety on vehicles is classified as active safety and passive safety. Passive safety being those features or those constructions, those structures that will protect the occupant in case the accident happens. Whereas active and active safety involves those controls and those features that will prevent the accident from happening. Now, moving towards the future of road safety, I personally feel that the passive safety role will be kind of minimized. There will be more active role played by the active safety controls. In other words, the complete transformation of the vehicles into adaptive controls. And that's where I think our third panelist today would like to talk about intelligence on the vehicles. That's my basic thought on how the migration of regulations will happen. There is a lot of maturity in regulations on passive safety. However, active safety regulations are still improving, and there is a lot of constructional features which are even beyond the regulations. My third thought goes in hierarchy of the vulnerability or susceptibility of road users. We all know it, but I would like to draw attention to the hierarchical pyramid, which at the base is the pedestrians, who are the most vulnerable road users. Then comes two-wheelers. Then comes three-wheelers, of course, and four-wheelers, and then heavy vehicles. If you look at all these vehicles, they run on the same infrastructure, the same road, the same, what shall I say, controls that or interactions. Um, does it mean that these infrastructure is suitable to all these types of road users? That is a thought which must go in while evaluating how best we can, work towards future road safety.
Okay.
Coming to the need for standardization, while UNEC regulations are to a large extent adopted in the country, and Mr. Rao mentioned it nicely, and at ARA we are committed, and as was heard also in my introduction, um, I am chairing various committees which help the government in setting up norms. We are doing our bit. We are doing to catch up with the rest of the developed economies, so that Indian consumer also gets better products and safer products. However, I would like to highlight here that on the road infrastructure side, there's a lot to be done. In the Indian context, the standardization is a major aspect in which road infrastructure needs to be seen. And then third, of course, is the human behavior. And I do agree with Mr. Rao when he mentioned that is one of the most important aspects to be addressed in order that we get best out of the vehicular technology, of the road infrastructure and whatnot. Moving towards our own Indian ethos of road safety, we need to really prioritize our resources. A lot of resources are being spent today on improving vehicle construction. Many resources are there to give better product into the market. However, I think more prioritization should be done to have the access to infrastructure as well as improving the behaviors. While we do this, we do have access to high technology. However, the penetration into the Indian market is what needs to be done. Mr. Rao mentioned about the seat belt. It's a technology which is available for last 3 decades. It took a lot of time and efforts and energy by everyone to enforce this smallest technology. So the penetration is what will actually result into better outcome. And then, of course, absorption of these technology by everyone. Coming to the future trends, which I can see, which will have a larger impact on how we perceive road safety, is a clear migration from the public transport, from the personal transportation to mass transportation. Also, one can see a very clear shift from a personal mobility to the goods transportation. We also are seeing conventional fuels getting migrated to green technologies, and the more we add electric vehicles or complex products into the consumer's hands, their own safety needs to be addressed. And then, of course, we have shared, connected, and other technologies that are a reality. So in summary, I think that's where the Indian road safety should migrate. So these are my initial thoughts.
Thank you very much, Rashmi ma'am. It was indeed a great coverage of your 3 decades of experience, and also your thoughts on the future road safety is also in this. So we will come back with one more round of questions, which is just pouring into all the participants. Now we started with Ivy Rao sir with regulations, how it started in 1983, 1982, and also pre-British era period. And Rashmi ma'am covered about her experience in the last couple of decades on how this evolved, and she also thought about how this can be improved, specifically giving on the passive safety, active safety products, and how best we are in terms of regulations. Now we go to the future-most product of autonomous vehicle automated driving, where Bindu comes from with a lot of technologies in it. Bindu, your thoughts on it?
I'd like to thank you for inviting me, Giri. Definitely a privilege. Vehicle safety or road safety is definitely at the heart of what we do. It's one of the key motivations at Bosch. We talk and work towards everything that Rashmi ma'am said, you know, an emission-free or emission-improved world, an accident-free one, and a stress-free one. So anything to do with the conditions of the road. This area especially is very pertinent to me and my team because we work on the area of advanced driver assistance functions, and all our efforts are towards the controlling and improving the response of the vehicle to different stimuli. I totally appreciate the comment made by Rashmi ma'am on the saying that when you put all these elements together, it just exponentially increases the complexity of the system that we have to address and what are the solutions that need to come into being. And so we cannot at any point underestimate the focus of all the stakeholders. Everybody has to come together if something valid has to come out of these talks or out of this technology. What does it mean for us as a component supplier or as Bosch when we want to give systems to an OEM? What can we put on the vehicle that would support the avoidance of an accident, enhance life safety? It was already mentioned, passive safety systems are there, airbags, seat belts, tensioners, headrests. All these are topics that come under passive safety. When we look at the active safety systems, we are looking at, say, ABS, which I think was a very critical and important legislation that came through. And ESP is definitely something that really helps to give us the traction we need in terms of at times when the vehicle tends to go out of control and still achieve the driver demand. So I believe that all these together really add a lot of functionality to the vehicles, and we have a lot of vehicles with these systems already. What I would like to dwell a little bit on is on the ADAS functions, which is the advanced driver assistance functions. And today I will be talking basically about the, typically like to concentrate on the level 1 and level 2 functions. These are the comfort functions and safety functions. These are meant to assist the driver. The driver is still in charge of his vehicle. He would, I don't know, Giri, were you able to look at the slides I sent you? Something, it's okay if you cannot pull it up.
We saw the slides, but I think you can just give an overview of those things.
Okay. So basically it helps to navigate to the people who are listening to if they saw that. But typically we have the actual, the who is in charge of which mode, right? So you have the steering, the braking, the deceleration commands, and the driver is in charge of it. It is assisted by the vehicle. We look out by the system on the vehicle. We look at cognizance, perception, and the decision of what happens that is still in the control of the driver in level 1 and level 2. But we have certain modes that are defined where the vehicle, in case there is a lapse by the driver, the vehicle comes in with either a warning. So coming to this, so I think that it's very important that we see what are we trying to design. I'm going to try and speak a little faster. But what are we trying to design in terms of a reliable system? The challenge to us is to give a reliable ADAS systems that behave the same way, or they are robust enough to handle different kinds of conditions. I would like to break it down into three main areas. The first is, if we were to map it to what our brain function does, is first to sense, and then think, and then to act, right? So the first one is sense. How do we perceive what's around us, right? When I say we here, I mean the vehicle. We use multiple sensors. We have video or camera, we have radar. And in the advanced automated levels, we use a combination of LiDAR, ultrasonic, everything comes together. And so the more complicated or complex the system is, the more it becomes a system of systems, which involves the integration of a lot of sensors. And what the sensors do is put together a picture of what the vehicle sees. And then we move to the act. Now that we have understood what is there on the road, who are the road participants, what are the road features, we come to think, where we work out the different probabilities of different scenarios, and choose a specific, the most probable scenario, and then give the instruction to the actuators, and that comes act as to whether it's just a warning, or it's a braking, or it's an assisted braking, or it's an assisted steering, or it's a swerving. Yeah, so there are a lot of actions that come out of this. So this is the basic thing. And your reliability increases as you work on each of these components more and more. So what are the different issues that we are trying to, or let's say, help? Is basically two cases would be, one, the driver fatigue itself. So the driver fatigue is something that really causes him, he's not able to respond to stimuli that come in front of him, a sudden crossing, or there is an object but he's falling asleep in the cab, right? So, or in the car or in the truck. So there's a lot of issues with driver fatigue. They're continuously pressing accelerators, braking, everything is continuously being actuated by this person. And so it comes to the importance of providing comfort functions to the driver. So basically you let him take his leg off the pedal, or basically his hands is on the steering, but it is able to follow a lane, for example. So that's a lane keep function, but anything that assists the driver. And then we move to the actual safety. This is indirectly connected to safety, but if we move to actual safety functions like the automated emergency braking, and this is something that is considered as legislation in different parts of the world. We have the NCAP ratings, which describe the different levels of the AEB based on which year it is. So over the years, starting with 14 onwards, we have NCAP ratings almost every 2 years. And every release of the NCAP rating shows that the sensitivity towards the vulnerable road user, right? Whether it's a pedestrian, the different angles the pedestrian could be, participating in the road. Whether it's a longitudinal or lateral axis. So they have added cyclists as these have matured, and the technology has matured in its ability to let's say, perceive these different modes of the participants. The NCAP ratings have also increased. And so now it's getting tougher and tougher to meet these norms. And so you are coming up with more complex algorithms that help you in perception, that help you in behavior. Behavior is the think part of it. And then finally they actuate. Now, let's look at it from with respect to India, right? What are we trying to do? We're trying to convert a complex, unpredictable real world system into a system that recognizes these stimuli in a combination reliably and responds correctly every time. And please remember, when we talk level 1 and level 2, this is to the audience, that we are still saying the driver is still in charge of the vehicle. These are assisted functions. Yeah. So they are never meant to replace the driver at any point of time. So when so what we thought at Bosch, what we did was we really wanted to see how we could help or how we could understand what is the scenario in India. And so we launched this project called Drishti. And the definition.
Bindu, I will come to Drishti project in the later part. Is it
Okay.
fine?
Yeah,
Because,
sure. But
so
just the
just,
questions,
yeah.
what I don't know what you are covering. So maybe I will jump to some of the other issues we faced, we understood from Drishti. Yeah, so basically our understanding is we ran highway scenarios and urban scenarios. And highway, of course, okay, let's start with urban. Urban scenarios, of course, much more density in traffic and different vulnerable road users were part of it. However, your speeds are lower, and so you have more time, or let's say the impact of a collision is much less. On a highway, good part is there are more standard road features on the road, on the highways. So if we were to look at an ability to put in a ADAS function and activate it, AEB or ACC on the highway, it still seemed a little bit more feasible to us in terms of if we were to limit the number of sensors that we were to put on the car. The speed, what it gave us a feel is how does the system see the road, right? And then we were able to put together our thoughts. I come back now to to the point that Rashmi ma'am talked about, which is basically the variety, or what is say the standardization of road features, which is basically so critical for us. When we talk about, let's say, higher variety versus higher levels of automated driving. So even if you want to achieve the lowest bit, the lower half of 1 and 2, but the variety is a challenge, right? So that again increases the complexity of your system. So we're talking about road signs. We need standardization of all these. The road signs, let's say road humps, right? There are different sizes, slopes to the road humps. We should be able to still understand that that is a road hump, right? The barriers, the non-standard barriers like police barriers, you see suddenly arising in front on a highway. The lane markings, number plates, they're not, people are using fancy font, they're putting it in different positions. Sometimes it's just a little hard for you to perceive with your sensors what these things are. So I believe that all the mathematicians and engineers on this call will agree with me on this. The more balcony cases or exception cases that we have, the more complex the solution becomes and the more costlier. And so my input on my journey on India road conditions would be to improve safety, we really need to standardize some of the road features so that we're able to develop very consistent perception algorithms and be able to put it on a low cost solution. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bindu. What a variety of coverage, starting from the artificial intelligence to the algorithms to the programs on the future products. This is very good. So now we just get into a short round of panel discussion with some topics to touch upon, and then we will take up the question answers. To start with, I just saw from the pre-British era to the future, maybe another 2050 automotive solutions getting ready, which is clearly seen in the spectrum, almost 1 century technology we are talking about. What is the basis? My question to all the panelists is, what is the basis of deciding all this technology? So do you really look into the data? Number one, Ivirav sir already explained that there is no concrete or an accident data available in our system. The only thing which we rely on is on the data is what the Ministry of Road Transport submit to us. And based on it, we really cannot do any engineering analysis, that's for sure. Second thing, we have here and there some corporates joined together, started a project called RASI, which is going on with road accident sampling system. From the panelists, first question to you all is, do you think that there is an urgent need for India to join hands from all the agencies to create and develop and establish a robust database based on the accidents, wherein all the basis of the study, whatever we talk from pre-British era to the future system, will be designed based on it?
Yeah,
Yes, anybody can take it.
I fully agree with you that we badly need a central agency which would be able to study all the accidents, to analyze or find the root cause, what because of the accident took place.
Mhm,
Unfortunately, there was a project initiated as a part of NATRIP, which was under NATRIP project, but somehow it never took off.
mhm,
And the only agency which we know is what you mentioned, which is, but they are not able to actually take up, do analysis of many accidents.
mhm,
So I think that's very, very important. Otherwise, we'll continue with whatever we are doing, and maybe we'll base on the accident data, etc., from other countries, which in many cases may not be very relevant for India. So
mhm.
I think it's very, very important to get to have the central agency which would study all the types of accidents which are taking place and analyze and come to a root cause, clearly spell out what created, what caused the accident, not
Yeah,
only in cities but also in towns.
thank you, sir. Rashmi, ma'am?
Yes, most certainly it is a need of the hour, but I have a different perspective on it. There are simulation tools available, so we are not at loss. Even in absence of data, we are moving towards better designs, better improved designs. So nothing stops us from working towards better road construction and better vehicle designs. It's already a proven fact that these interactions have a certain way of controlling occupant safety. Where we are lacking is, benefit to cost ratio when we talk about it, whether to
Mhm,
introduce a particular regulation or not in the Indian context. There
mhm,
comes the data.
mhm,
When we want low-hanging fruits to be, useful for the society, or the resources being limited, what should be taken on priority? That's where
mhm,
actually the database really
mhm,
matters.
mhm. So, Bindu, you have any thoughts on it?
So I also think that the luxury of having a fully connected database may be a long time coming.
Mhm,
However, it would really help to know if we have a certain percentage of accidents on the highway, what caused them. Was it that the driver did not see? Was it a sudden crossing? So
yeah.
very, very specific use cases and the histograms of these use cases really helps us to be able to optimize for the right solution.
Okay, thank you. So when Rashmi rightly said that we need cost benefit analysis to
Hmm.
do any regulations or legislations, which is the prime most important. We also tried to do this cost benefit analysis since a decade, and only the biggest problem was we could not even know what is the cost of a life in India, because there
Yeah.
is no agency which says what is the cost of a life. Because in other countries, in the Western countries, you have this number released from the Ministry of Health every year. Only study which we all talk about in every seminars is the total loss of fatalities, accidents in India is up to 3% of GDP. And every conference, every meetings, every seminar, we make an opening system to this study. And this study is done in 1980. Yeah, by some professor, and we didn't really do not have an upgraded of this particular study itself. So the whole point is like we really need this database at least in one or the other form to make a registration of regulations, everything which is rightly put to be placed in India. So just taking up the European systems and putting it in Indian systems may not work sometimes, may work sometimes. How do you authenticate is one by understanding the technological aspect, as Ivira said about the behavioral aspect. Number two, as Rashmi ma'am clearly said about cost benefit ratio in order to introduce all these things. This will definitely help us into remodeling the whole system. So I think I will leave to the panelists also on to the audience to think how we can come up with such a robust system, joining hands with all the people. So this is one topic on it.
I just
Yes,
want
sir.
to
You
add
have
one
comment?
point. In many time, what is important or crucial in other countries may not necessarily be very relevant in India. So
Exactly.
that's where these data will be very, very useful.
Right, sir. Right,
This
sir.
was indirectly cost benefit analysis, what ma'am has mentioned. But
Right.
relevance of a standard also comes out of this data actually.
Okay. So assuming that we have the best safety products, because we also understood from Damle sir in the last sessions, he clearly mentioned about that we are on par with international standards in specific to the vehicle regulations, be it ABS, be it two-wheeler ABS, be it airbags, be it electronic stability control, which is going to come, and also maybe in the future of AEB, which is what we discussed. So from your thought process, whatever the regulations which has been rolled out so far, specific to India, I'm talking only about safety regulations, not on the emissions. In the safety regulations, do you really think India is going in the right direction in order to implement all these technologies? Or do you have any other thought process that no, India does not need such kind of a products. We need something else which is totally innovative for India. So I also got another question saying that we have an heterogeneous traffic. We have a bullock cart going on one road. On the other side, you have an Audi, Jaguar and BMW zooming at around 100 kph on the same road. And you have a pedestrian standing and also a cycle shop where he has a tea dabba in the back and he will be selling tea on the same road. So you have a spectrum of heterogeneous people in this. How do you tackle this? Is the technologies and the regulations what we are flowing year on year, is it in the right direction? Or are we following some patterns, or how is it designed? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, I was amazed with this question, and everybody faces this, everybody experiences this. There's no thought that each one bit that goes on regulations is always on the vehicle construction side. I think we need to tighten also the regulations which are to be enforced by pedestrians, to be enforced by other road users. You mentioned about bullock cart. Where in the rule book says that the bullock cart can't come on road, and if it comes on road, what is that safety feature that it should have? So that's the reason why such entities are considered as vulnerable on the same road which is shared by other vehicles. There is a certain extent only to which vehicle technologies can be loaded on a particular sector, say passenger car. You mentioned about a couple of high-end cars. What about those regulations that are required for the trucks and buses? Buses carry much more number of people. So we need to focus on each sector. And we can't just focus on passenger cars. We have to address two-wheelers separately, three-wheelers separately, and so on and so forth. And that's where actually the roadmap for the country was adopted. And each sector is then addressed appropriately.
Okay, thank you. Sir, do you have any points? Yes,
Yeah,
go ahead, sir.
what I very strongly feel is, as far as the vehicles are concerned, I think most of the standards which are required for safety of users and also pedestrians have been implemented. I think this is the time now we have to take very strict measures to make everybody follow what he's supposed to follow in terms of traffic rules, in the way he's supposed to use the vehicle, or a pedestrian in the way he's supposed to use the, road, crossing the road, etc., etc. Having said this, I would also, very clearly say that our roads and basic infrastructure also needs a lot of improvement. There is no footpath left for the pedestrians to walk. So all these issues are there which also need to be addressed. But the vehicle, after implementation of all these regulations, require a user who is going to follow what are there in the, what feature is there for what purpose and how and when it should be used. Similarly, if the various restrictions are there from because of the traffic on the roads, we are supposed to follow those things. Unless everybody follows that, including the pedestrians, we will not be able to achieve safe roads. I mean, it's not just the vehicles or vehicle driver being safe will not end up with safe roads. It's also the pedestrians and other users also have to do their bit in following what are the rules and how they are supposed to use the road.
Mhm. So thank you very much. So that's also right data. So Bindu, you have some comments to it?
No, I think I was very intrigued by your statement that, how costly is a life. Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
so it is evident that the government thinks that the life is costly, and that is why they bring in legislation, emission norms, safety norms, everything comes in through.
Okay.
And so yes, it's very important that people also realize that they are precious, right? So many scenarios we have had to face with someone avoiding a U-turn and so coming down the same road, right, in the opposite direction, and it's like a one-lane highway, right? So what does the system do to react to this? Basically, you have this very key, then you are designing a system to detect this specific case just because a person will not obey a rule, right? But it is also important that we are able to provide alternates to people so that their lives don't become so difficult. So I don't know, this seems to be a very complex problem. Anyway, I look at it, it looks like if we were to try and bring down the cost of the systems we are going to put on these vehicles, we must optimize the conditions accordingly. You cannot have too many sensors on it. It defeats the entire purpose. You have a system that is too costly and nobody can get it. The max is we can put them on public transport, but then again, is it still affordable even with public transport? So I think this dichotomy between what would really save lives versus what is the cost to it, it will always exist. And I think we need government regulations to help guide us through this.
So to take the lead from what you speak, government regulations and registrations is not the only key solution for all such things. So that's very much evident because we have all the technologies built into the car. When I say with an heterogeneous spectrum of vehicles on the road, it's sometimes quite hard even to manage when you have an highly sophisticated technology, when you have a bullock cart or a pedestrian walking on the street. How do we really look into it will be another big question where transport planners has to come in, infrastructure planners has to come in to really regulate what has to go where and all these things. So I think on the next I would like to take to other topic where on the in-vehicle safety technologies. There are four topics which I would like to cover in this in-vehicle safety technologies. Outside the vehicle, we'll talk in a couple of minutes later. But in the vehicle technologies, I think right now we have airbags, we have seat belts, we have ABS legislated on the vehicles. And now I would like to take on you from the in-vehicle technologies, how effective is this technologies? Have you ever done any retrospective analysis from your side? And do you really think this particular technologies help? If yes, what are the future technologies that you are planning to come up for India?
Like out of the features what you have mentioned, the braking is a active safety requirement,
Safety
and
systems.
the seat belts and airbags are passive. So, but one point which worries the industry is the figures I mentioned about people using the seat belts. I mean, it said that if a airbag, in case of a crash, if airbag comes into operation, if the person is not wearing a seatbelt, it's going to be more fatal. And somehow we are not still able to have good usage of seat belts when using the vehicle, both the front seats and the rear seats. So that is one point of concern. And in any case, brake system with ABS and other things definitely will help the user to, I mean, stop the vehicle the way it is required in case of emergency or normal stopping. But the problem I mean, most of the accidents take place because not necessarily the person who is actually driving this vehicle, but the others who are in other vehicles, they may not be actually. If there is a red signal and somebody is not supposed to cross the road and he suddenly decides to take a right turn, then it's a problem. That's how many
Mm,
of the problems happen. So
mhm.
unless everybody follows traffic rules, it's very difficult to control the accidents, in
Okay,
spite
Rashmi
of
ma'am.
having all the systems in place.
Yeah, I feel that so long as we are all surrounded by men who are likely to make mistakes, we all are going to be subject to accidents. And uh, the way I look at it is it reduces the severity of impact, it reduces the risk, it minimizes the impact. Even if it saves one life,
Mhm,
it's worth it. There are instances where it won't may not save because of the severity of the situation. But it doesn't mean
mhm,
that the vehicle should not be fitted. Even if one vehicle, one person, one life is saved, I
mhm,
think it's worth it. So there
mhm,
are technologies which are intended to save lives. There are
mhm,
technologies which are intended to avoid accidents, and they
mhm,
all do their good job. And we should
mhm,
encourage, and the user should be trained to
mhm,
use it effectively to his own
mhm.
benefit.
Okay. From your perspective, what are ARI working on the future technologies, ma'am? Because I see a lot of list of autonomous vehicles, smart structure application, HEVs, and few other technologies which has been done with various labs
Yeah.
of yours. So
Yeah.
can you just throw some light?
Lots of these activities which Bindu also mentioned, and I would like to highlight to her that the use cases and the boundary conditions that she is working upon,
Mm,
we are establishing at ARI, and a lot of
mm,
algorithms which can be of use, which
mm,
can sit into the design packages,
Mhm.
mhm,
are available now at ARI. So that's
mm,
something which is new. We are also working on advanced features that would go, and also how to regulate the
mm,
autonomous driving. So because that's also ARA's role to help the government in setting up regulations.
okay.
So as one migrates towards bringing in higher level of automation, somebody needs to certify them.
Yeah.
So
Right, right, right.
we are getting ready to certify such technologies. So that means a lot of development before we are able to even certify.
Yeah.
So that's where we are working.
Perfect. So to add on to this, I think many of the corporates like Bosch and also most of the auto suppliers is working on such latest technologies in collaboration with many OEMs. So as a part of it, in Bosch, we started a project called Drishti, where we attached all the cameras, radar, sensors, everything on the vehicle, the real available radars, which is from the European system, and try to see how smart is my car? Will it detect? And I was lucky to see the videos where half of the time it did not even recognize a dog. And sometimes it did not recognize a cow. And cow is recognized as two human with four legs. Yeah,
My God.
kind of. This is like we are trying to take the sensor and put the same algorithm and try to establish, because when my counterpart from Germany or my researchers come from Germany, if they see a cow in front of the road, they are so amazed and they start clicking pictures. And for us, it's just a common scene here. Yeah. So the whole point is whatever it's a system designed over there is directly not fitting over here. And Drishti project, which is I think Bindu is heading in Bosch, gave us very good amount of insights. I think she has done around 4,000 kilometers or so in India, putting all the cameras and radars on it. Bindu, can you just give us India unique points and salient features of this observations?
Yeah, so this is a project which is very close to our hearts. We we're trying to look at what are the variety of incidents or objects even, but road participants on the road. And we were also checking the current features, what is the efficacy of these features. So an example, like Giri said, cows crossing the road. it is identified as pedestrian because it's not a normal thing in Europe to have this happen. I think the variety that hit us, we had potholes, right? If you do not see it, you would actually damage your axle, right? We had different sorts of humps. It could not detect the humps because it doesn't recognize this object, and we have bullock carts. So in every one of these, we have points where it means one more feature extraction algorithm, right? What is so worrying to us is when this object is not detectable per se. For example, in a bullock cart, you have these long sticks that they from agriculture, it protrudes beyond the acceptable limit, right? And your inability to view that as a valid obstacle would actually cause you to actually, if the driver cannot respond in time, you would actually slam into it, right? Because and these are some of the things that we consider very unique to India, and these are some of the things that we believe that we will work with the different use cases to bring it to bring it to work all together. But definitely very interesting, intriguing road objects that we see. Very specific to India.
And also challenging. For you to detect those objects.
Very challenging. Feature extraction is always a challenge, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. So with this, I would like to come to one last round of discussion, and then we'll take up the questions for the next 15-20 minutes with the concluding session. So coming to the safety of the cars, and the recent report clearly say from the Global NCAP that most of the cars, I think he has clearly quoted on February 2020 report, that more than 80% of the cars in India are not structural worthy for a global NCAP regulations for India. And I also know about ARA and also various OEMs and SIAM into the project of BNV SAP, which is called Bharat New Vehicle Assessment Program. So it kickstarted in 2014 and followed by which it did not come out to the light as of now so far. So number one, I want to know two things here. Number one, is it really true that the cars which is running in India is not crash worthy? And number two, how is NCAP shaping up in India when it is going to likely to come out?
I would.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
so,
take it.
Crash worthiness is required to be ascertained as per the national regulations. There are safety standards related to crash testing, which are made mandatory. And I confirm that all the vehicles that are manufactured in the country and certified as per those crash norms are in compliance. So that's a clear statement. So the norms came into existence recently, and the deadline, after the deadline, all the vehicles models which are manufactured are in compliance. Now, to answer the question regarding the NCAP. NCAP is much beyond the regulatory requirements. The NCAP protocol, or for that matter, even BNVSAP protocol, goes much beyond the mandatory regulatory requirement. There, in case the vehicle crash, speeds are slightly more. So there are differences. So this is a mandatory requirement plus additional safety. That is where actually the safety rating comes. Globally also it can be seen that first the mandatory regulations were brought in, and then came the desired safety rating. To answer your question, where does it stand now in India? So the protocol, which is called BNVSAP, has been finalized in consultation with all the stakeholders. It was submitted to the Government of India for taking it further. Technically, it has been accepted. However, the question remains as to who will be the administrative authority. So the direction from government is awaited, And
Okay.
once that agency has been identified, we can move on with the national protocol or safety protocol.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Sir, do you have any comments on it?
Yeah, actually, I fully agree with what ma'am has said. Before we actually implemented the crash standard in India, the GNCAP people used to pick up vehicles which are there in the market, which don't comply to crash. We all know that. And used to test and say this 0 star. It's no great finding. He has wasted his money testing these vehicles, taking them there and testing these vehicles. We all were aware that they don't meet the crash, but that time the crash norm was not there in India.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, for GNCAP, that is the norm they have, but that doesn't mean that he will test any vehicle which is there in India and say he is useless.
Mm-hmm.
You should see what are the various norms which are applicable in the country, and then accordingly you should choose the models.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
If
But
you,
according to GNCAP, to add on a couple of points, so GNCAP we have around 8 to 9 NCAPs like Australian NCAP, European NCAP, everything. They all comply to two main test speed standards. One is 64 kph offset deformable barrier,
yes,
wherein
yeah,
all the crashes are tested across the globe, irrespective of which country you are. There is no change in the speed. If you are testing the same thing on a full frontal, it is 56 kph full frontal crash. Yeah. So that is very much evident. So a couple of times they picked up one of the most good performing cars. I don't want to name which car it is, but they say it's kind of labeled as a 0 star. And I also read a couple of reports. The cars which are manufactured in India meets around 4 star in Latin America, and the same car which is running on Indian roads meets 0 star. And then the comparison report is available and out by the NCAPs. So I was a little perplexed by looking at this. Why these two different standards and regulations when you have the same car which is manufactured from the country?
no, these results are from which year?
I think it was around 2017, 16,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
during
This
those
is what
times. I
I'm.
think last couple of years, there is no NCAP test which is done on Indian cars.
Yeah, the crash test got implemented last year only for the existing
Okay,
models in India. So
okay.
the things are different now.
Okay, okay. So I also extremely privileged to see AES, all the crash norms which is coming up and taken it as AES, Automotive Industry Standards, 100 meet, be a 101, 102 for the pedestrians, and also for 98, 99 for frontal crashes and other things. We also follow all those crash tests, madam. And thank you very much for ARI making it as specifics and also putting it in the AES format and also as BIS format for specific safety systems. So you have anything to comment on it?
No.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. I think now we are close to 5:10 now. So let's take up the question answers from the audience. So thank you very much for giving us an overall insight on how exactly the whole system and other stuff specific to the vehicle safety which is going on. So I have a couple of questions here. Number one, we see a heterogeneous traffic condition in India and specifically inside the city. And we, on the other hand, we also talk about the autonomous vehicles and automatic sensors. What is the future for autonomous vehicles in India? How does it look like in India? Do you say that when autonomous vehicle comes, we have to completely remove all the vulnerable road users on the road? How do you control on it? Anybody can take this.
Maybe Bindu can take this.
Do is best to take. Yes.
Okay, so studies show that probably in the highly dense areas in India, it will be a challenge, especially if people do not follow rules. So we had cases where at a junction, there was just no rule. There was no rule at all, right? So even if you have to look at a behavior strategy, means when we calculate the probabilities of how to behave, the car should behave, right? It becomes very, very complicated because nobody is following a set pattern. We have people crossing, we have animals crossing, we have two-wheelers crossing across. So I think it will remain a challenge in the more dense areas where it's very hard to be able to find out what is the behavioral strategy of each of these traffic participants. I see a more high probability on the highways that yes, if the standardization across the national highways and the state highways in terms of road signs, in terms of the lane markings, in terms of the humps, the barriers, if we have standardization across these two areas on the highways and we are able to maintain that, yes, definitely some functions of automated driving can be used.
Is there any plan related to automated driving which has been thought to make a regulation in India, or will it take some more time to really think about it?
Yes, there is a plan for making regulations. Obviously, it will go in step-by-step manner. There is a special committee which is looking into autonomous driving and the regulations related to it. Initially, obviously, it will go as per the some of the level 1 or level 2 features and then migrate towards autonomous driving at a later date. So we can see globally also these regulations are getting developed just now. So we are having a close eye at those developments and then migrate towards our own regulations. Yeah.
So there's a specific questions to Rashmi ma'am. We all understand the importance of seatbelt, but basic safety feature is limited only to passenger cars. And I was amazed to see use of seatbelts in intercity buses in UK. Your thoughts on bus safety, standard specific of availability of seatbelts in buses in future in India?
There was a lot of discussion on this topic in our regulatory committees. Obviously, for the buses, the driver seat and the co-driver seat already has seat belt, and the front row also has seat belts. Regarding the remaining seats, whether seat belts should be put or not, there was a lot of discussion, and there are some simulations which were done to predict if seat belts could be effective or otherwise. However, the discussion stopped there, and a lot of other regulations were brought in first. For example, bus rollover. For example, the basic seats of the buses themselves. So these were the steps taken before we migrate to the seat belts for the occupants. So that's the current scenario, current status at this moment. But obviously in future, we have to take that up.
Yes, sir, you would like to add?
I am not from that segment, but what I know is also the bus body gets built outside, not with the OEM's premises.
Yeah,
And
but
all the seat fitment, etc., also done by the
right.
bodybuilder. So to
But
regulate that also is very difficult. I mean, it's an additional problem.
That's a social problem. When it
Right.
comes to regulating it, obviously it has to be done in a step-by-step manner.
Correct.
Okay. So there's another question related to the new technologies which has been legislated and also upcoming. So one is on DRL, that is the daytime running lamps, and the second is also on the Bluetooth technology. So related to distracted driving of four-wheelers, is Bluetooth technology permitted in the cars as per Motor Vehicle Act? Why is every car provided with the Bluetooth controls on a steering as an OE fitments? Is it not distracting? I think it's a basic question.
No, I don't think so, because we are having all these stereo systems, etc., for a long time. So
Okay.
I mean, I really don't think it's any hazard to have these.
Now, his question is also on the control of Bluetooth on the steering column.
Yes.
That's better, I think, instead of taking
that's
his
my better.
hands off from the steering wheel to control or tune anything. This actually initially Maruti also had the steering systems. The controls used to be on the center of the instrument panel, but subsequently, I think with the launch of STEAM or SX4, we
Okay.
started having controls on the steering wheel. I mean, we feel that it's better to have them on the steering wheel.
Okay. And there's another question on daylight running lamps, that is DTL, DRL. Is it relevant for Indian condition? Because we always used to believe that the work only in countries where the number of two-wheelers is far and very small in comparison with four-wheelers. To identify the two-wheelers in comparison with the four-wheelers, we used to have daylight running. But we mandated that in India, where all the vehicles will have the lights on, but it is going to create even more chaos when Indian two-wheelers just all around us and suddenly pops out with a light on the head in the front, which will cause a vision obstruction for the vehicles which is coming over it, and which makes the blind for the opponent vehicle which is coming during the daytime. So your thoughts and expert opinion all the same.
Um,
I would like to take that question. I
yeah.
remember
Yes, ma'am.
the genesis of this regulation. This was debated for quite a few years, because that's what one regulation which we had left out from our safety roadmap, because it was believed that it is not relevant for India. There are some expert opinions which express that even in the Indian situation, where the daylight is pretty bright, and do we really need uh, conspicuity to be, available on two-wheelers? There came a study from IIT itself indicating that for vulnerable road users, conspicuity is what is important also. And it is for that reason that this was introduced. This was
Mm-hmm.
one of the classical cases where we saw a benefit, much more benefit than the cost. It hardly
Mm-hmm.
costs us anything. So from that point
Mm-hmm.
of view, this was introduced. There
Mm-hmm.
are, of course, opinions, both side opinions, but it is not an unsafe feature. That much I
Okay.
can tell.
Okay. Perfect. Any other comments on it, dear? Okay, we'll move to the next topic, which we have vehicles with very good safety systems in India as of now, with the top brim on the legislations and regulations of all the latest technologies fitted in our vehicles. But on the other side, users do not even understand what are the importance of the basic safety systems. Like airbag does not help without wearing a seat belt, and the helmets are far more important than any other safety systems in riding. Is there any roadmap from the driver behavior and the user's behavior from the vehicle manufacturers and also from the government agency to really bring this on the same level?
So actually, when the vehicle is being delivered to the customers, there is I mean, briefing done to the whoever comes to receive the vehicle about all these features and what is supposed to be doing, and what features have been provided for what purpose, and how they help the driver to uh, for safe driving, and also wearing of seat
Mm-hmm.
belts, etc. Having said that, somehow uh, we in India tend to actually defy what is mentioned as a rule.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is typical of us to, if somebody says don't do this, we tend to do that. I mean,
Okay.
this behavior you can observe everywhere. I think that is the major problem.
Okay.
So, I mean, this is what I was raising in my initial address.
Mm-hmm.
Even the people who are wearing helmets, they don't use the buckle properly. So, having the helmet on his head doesn't help him at all unless he wears it properly. Because the purpose for which he is having the helmet on his head is to make the cop feel that he is wearing a helmet to avoid any penalty,
Okay.
etc.
And
But
is
he
there
is
any
not
steps taken?
heart in heart not bothered how it's unsafe for him.
Okay.
Even two-wheeler manufacturer also had been doing a lot of campaign to stress the point that wearing two-wheeler is very, very important when he is using a two-wheeler.
Right, right, right.
So I thought that I'd add something here.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, Bindu, go ahead.
I have. It's been some years since I bought my current car, but it has airbags, and I don't believe anybody told me anything about it when I got it. I think that a video or an image speaks 1,000 words, and maybe the impact of an airbag without a seatbelt, if that is visually shown to somebody, I don't think they will take it lightly afterwards, because I think it sort of imprints on your mind. And one of the most effective means of communication is always showing a video. You don't even have to talk, right? So this is a wish list from my side, not as a panelist, but maybe as someone who.
No. I would
Yes,
like
yes,
to
go
add
ahead.
one point here. Actually, the oral instructions given during the delivery of the vehicle is better compared to giving them a video recording,
Video
because
or an
a lot of
advertisement.
people don't open the video. Whatever floppy you are giving. Same applies for the owner's manual. Owner's manual gives a lot of instructions for the user, but
Okay,
how many of us
okay.
read the owner manual details? See, the problem
So there is
is with all of us.
the following it up. We have another interesting question with respect to the safety measures. What is the cost of ensuring minimum safety for India? Because we in the Western world, safety comes with the part of the vehicle itself, and it is a need. In India, it is supposed to be a luxury. If I want to buy a vehicle with a base minimum safety, for example, I just need an ABS and an airbag, and I will not be able to buy that because it is categorized in such a way in a 3 layers, where if I want to buy with an the safety features, we have to buy in additional cost of Bluetooth speakers and also leather
It's no
seats,
longer
mag wheels,
so.
which is not required.
It's no longer so.
So,
Is
so
referring to a time when these were not mandatory. Now, all these
okay.
things are mandatory. So, 100% of the vehicles coming out of the manufacturing now have all these things. He's
So
talking
if I want
about,
only, so to add on, if I want only ESP, can I just ask the manufacturer, just can you, sir, please get me only ESP without any additions?
no, he will also get all the things which are required to meet the mandatory regulatory requirements which are there.
Yeah, that's the point. The user is telling, I don't need a leather
Obviously,
seat, I don't need a music system.
nobody can sell a vehicle without meeting the regulatory mandatory regulations.
Right, right.
I,
Yes,
I,
madam.
I would
Madam
Continue.
wants to add.
I would like to add here, yeah, that's a pricing strategy by the manufacturers. They often combine high-end safety features with high-end luxury features as well. And that's where I think the question is coming in. We need to change that. There should be a pull from the consumers as well, that the consumer must demand. They should start demanding safety. And differential cost is what is currently stopping them from doing it. And I think gradually the manufacturers are also coming forward with better pricing strategies now. So I very sincerely hope that in future we will have better situations.
No,
Yes,
Perfect,
Rao.
perfect.
I
Thank you.
just want to
Yes,
add
sir.
one more point to what ma'am has said. What ma'am said is right, but that is applicable for only those features which are not mandatory. That's one.
Okay.
Second thing is, before fitment of airbag, etc., was mandated, we used to offer some of the models. We means Maruti used to offer some of the models with airbag as an optional fitment. There were absolutely no takers.
Okay.
So in India, that's also another issue.
Exactly. This
Much
also we have
money
to
one
think how
is
to
ready to
ensure
pay for so-called safety features.
willingness to pay for safety feature and
Yeah, is
understand
also
that
an
it's the
issue.
need for that.
Correct,
Okay.
exactly.
So thank you very much. I think more or less we are done. So I really cannot cover all the questions because it's just popping in second by second as the discussion intensifies. And too many questions to Bindu as well for automation and automated driving. And also I have a specific number like ISO 26262
Point.
regulations, impact, and few other things. I'm pretty sure this is an overview session. We cannot dwell too much technical into it. So with this, I would like to officially close the session with the last takeaways from all the panelists. And all the questions will be posted in the social media, and you can also reply and keep in touch through IRSC to answer all these questions. So my final food for thoughts for all the panelists is thank you very much for spending your valuable Sunday evening time with us, and also with me on sharing your thought process. And we started from pre-British era to the future automated safety systems, and covering all the aspects of regulations, AAS, BNVS safety, crash tests, homologations. It was really fun-filled session which I was looking today, and I hope all the participants would have been also been enjoyed with this. So with this, I would like to take the final food for thoughts from all the panelists here to start with. So I would like to get two things. One, your idea and thought process on the webinar series which we are conducting here, and any comments on it. Number two, your thoughts on future vehicle safety systems for India. Yes.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's a very good initiative which has been taken by IRSC for conducting these webinars every week on a Sunday and calling different experts from different backgrounds to talk about, take their views about how to improve Indian road safety. As far as the features and safety equipment on vehicles is concerned, I personally feel, I'm not saying this because I am from the auto industry. We have almost mandated and have almost all the safety critical regulations on the vehicles now which are being made. But to really get good benefit out of these, I think what we need is a disciplined user, a user who uses the way he's supposed to use they drive the vehicle or use the vehicle. Similarly, the road users, unless we bring in that discipline on all vehicle users and the road users, which include the pedestrians, we will not be able to move towards so-called zero accident environment. I mean, this is something to do with our behavioral nature, and I think we have to work to how to change the behavior of the Indian users of both vehicles and unless that change comes, I have my doubts whether we'll be able to achieve much on this field.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Rashmi ma'am.
Yes, first of all, my compliments to IRSC for organizing this event. Has been wonderful participating in this. Is my personal mission as well as organizational mission to work towards the road safety. So it fits into our own, agenda. Um, Coming to what is my take on the subject, yes, we all must stay committed. Safety is a serious subject, and be it road safety, be it personal safety, at home also. We take things lightly. From government side and from the test agency side, I would like to ensure everyone who is listening and who is involved in the subject that government is pretty serious, test agencies and researchers are pretty serious. Everybody is putting in their bit of it. We all must continue contributing towards our final objective, that is the zero accidents on road. So this is a journey. This is not something which is achievable in, say, next year or year after that. So it's a journey, and let's have a good journey and a good target. Thank you.
Thank you. Bindu, over to you.
Yeah, so I have been personally very enlightened by the series. Thank you, Giri, so much, and IRSC to arrange this. It was really good to listen to Rashmi ma'am and Ivy Rao sir. The inputs of just the vision that they have for India is very heartening to know. I think that we will anyway be working much more closely in the future. As these things come more, closer to reality. like you said, it is a journey. I'm very privileged and excited to be part of this journey, and I would like to thank all the participants for joining and for the questions asked. Hopefully, we have shed a little bit of light onto this as a continued series. It's a wonderful idea. Thanks again.
So thank you very much for all the participants, and also thanks for Ivirav sir, Rashmi ma'am, and also Bindu for joining us on this Sunday. Have a wonderful Sunday to you all, and over to Swati. Thank you.
Thank you, Giri. Thank you all speakers for your time. I now call upon Amar to give us the thank you speech.
Yeah, so thank you, Giri, and sort of Ivy Rao sir, Bindu ma'am, and ma'am from ARI, everyone for sort of joining. It has been a pleasure for IRSC to sort of host this series over the lockdown period. We started with discussing with sort of Giri sir that the momentum that we all needed for the sort of creating safe roads in India or achieving Vision 2030, we all had started working on that after the global ministerial conference in Sweden. But as soon as we sort of were picking up momentum, all of a sudden the lockdown sort of came in, and we were not able to sort of continue with our plans that we had thought of. But we thought that let's sort of keep the road safety community together, and let's keep bringing everyone together on a weekly basis, discussing about the ideas that we have and how we can sort of strengthen our way forward and make Indian roads safer. So as IRSC, as the largest youth-led community in India working for road safety with more than 40,000 people, we look forward to sort of guidance from you all experts, and how we can do better. So thank you once again for coming and sharing your views. So we will sort of keep pinging you people again and again as to how we can do better, how the young people with their energies can contribute better to making Indian roads safer. So that's our objective, and thank you everyone who joined from different parts of the country and some international audience as well. We believe that you people are sort of understanding more in depth about the topic of road safety and how everyone sort of can come together and work together for sort of safer India and the safer world. So I think concluding with one statement that Abhay Damle sir sort of made in his webinar is that if we solve the problem of road safety in India, we solve the problem of road safety for half of the world, because the number of road crash fatalities are sort of so high that he sort of faced those challenges while his tenure as a joint secretary, and due to his support and working closely under the sort of guidance of Mr. Gadkari, we have come a long way from a small project at IIT Delhi 5 years back. But now what we want is that how we can work towards sort of creating impact at a larger scale. And I think guidance from all of you would really go a long way in sort of strengthening our belief and what we are doing. So thanks once again, and thank you specifically to Giri sir. I think we have sort of taken time from his past 6 Sundays without sort of thanking him enough. And I think, sir, we'll take more, at least 52 more Sundays for the next year to continue. So that
Hope I'll be free at that time. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think more than so now for every webinar we receive more than 500 registrations, and 200 to 300 people sort of try to join in and different parts of the webinar. I think the community is growing, and the idea is that we should have this expert community at of road safety, where everyone is sort of sharing their viewpoints, and we can take so the best thing would happen if the young people who are also joining an IRSC like us can take cues from your sort of thoughts, and we can implement them on the ground level, and whatever we are doing we can sort of become better at it. So thank you. That I would like to conclude with this, and thanks to Swati from IRSC team for coordinating with the speakers, with the host, and with everyone who joined. So thank you, Swati, once again. Thanks everyone. Yeah.
Have a
Thank
pleasant
you.
evening. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.